The glass slipped from her hand and shattered across the floor, the sound cutting through the bar's chatter like a sudden held breath. And for a heartbeat, everyone saw the same thing at once. A young waitress steadying herself after being shoved aside, her face flushing not with anger but with surprise, and the room went strangely still. Until that moment, the copper finch had been worn and ordinary in the way that made people feel safe. It was early evening, the kind of hour when office ties loosened D and laughter came easily. Soft music drifted from a corner speaker, and the smell of toasted bread and rosemary clung to the air. Emma Hargreaves had been moving between tables with practiced ease, balancing plates and smiles, making quiet notes of who preferred lemon in their war and who always asked about the day's soup. She liked this part of her job, the gentle rhythm of being useful. The shove came from a man at the bar who had already ordered one drink too many. It wasn't dramatic or forceful, just careless and impatient. A quick nudge to reach for his wallet that sent Emma stumbling into a table edge. He muttered something under his breath, more annoyed at the broken glass than at her unsteady step. The bartender, Callum Fraser, froze mid-wipe, his jaw tightening as he took it all in. Emma crouched immediately, apologizing out of habit, cheeks burning as she gathered the shards. "I'm so sorry," she said to no one in particular, though she hadn't been the one to rush or push. Her voice was steady, but her hands shook. She had learned early that keeping calm was a kind of armor. That was when the entire bar froze for a different reason. From the corner booth, an older man rose slowly to his feet. His movements were deliberate, unhurried, as if he were giving the moment time to find its shape. His name was Thomas Wilton, and he came to the Copper Finch every Wednesday with his daughter Grace, though tonight he was alone. He wore a neatly pressed jumper and hat, kind eyes that seemed to carry more listening than speaking. People knew him as the man who tipped well and asked after everyone's families. Thomas walked toward Emma, not looking at the man at the bar at all. He knelt beside her, his knees creaking slightly, and held out a clean cloth from his pocket. "Let me help," he said quietly, his voice warm and steady. "You shouldn't pick this up with your bare hands." Emma looked up, startled, then nodded. The simple act of someone seeing her seemed to ease the tightness in her chest. Together, they gathered the glass, Thomas being careful and patient, Emma feeling grateful and embarrassed all at once. Behind them, the room held its breath. Callum set the towel down and stepped out from behind the bar. "That's enough," he said firmly, his voice calm but unmistakable. "We treat people with respect here." He looked at the man who had shoved Emma, not accusing, just clear. The man shifted on his stool, color rising in his face. For a moment, it seemed he might argue, but then something in the quiet attention of the room changed him. Dozens of eyes weren't judging him. They were waiting and waiting to see who he would choose to be next. I didn't mean," he began, then stopped. He glanced at Emma, at Thomas still kneeling beside her, and finally at the bartender. "I'm sorry," he said, the words awkward but sincere. He stood, setting some notes on the counter. "That was my fault." Emma straightened, brushing her apron. "Thank you," she replied softly, surprised by the relief that washed through her. It wasn't about the apology alone, it was about being acknowledged. Thomas rose to his feet and smiled at the man, not triumphantly but kindly. "We all have moments," he said. "What matters is what we do after." The tension dissolved like sugar in tea. Conversation returned in gentle waves, and someone at the window laughed too loudly, grateful for the release. Callum poured a fresh glass of water and slid it toward the man, who nodded and took it with a sheepish smile. Emma carried on with her shift, though something inside her had shifted. Every table seemed warmer now, every smile more real. A couple near the door caught her eye and raised their glasses in a small toast. At another table, a woman named Lucy O'Connell, who came in most weeks with her book club, squeezed Emma's hand as she passed. "You handled that beautifully," she said. Later, during a quiet moment, Emma found Thomas sitting back in his booth. She brought him his usual tea without asking. "Thank you," she said, meeting his eyes. "You didn't have to step in like that." Thomas wrapped his hands around the mug, the steam curling upward. "Sometimes," he replied, "the smallest steps are the ones that matter most. I have a daughter your age. I hope someone would do the same for her." Emma smiled, a lump forming in her throat. "She's lucky," she said. "So am I," he answered simply. As the evening wore on, the copper finch felt changed, as if an invisible thread now connected everyone inside. The man from the bar sat at a table, quietly nursing his water and chatting with Callum about local football. Lucy's book club debated endings and beginnings. A young couple shared a plate of chips, their heads bent together in easy conversation. None of it was remarkable on its own, but together it felt like something rare and precious. When Emma's shift ended, she stepped outside into the cool air, her coat pulled tight. Thomas was just ahead of her, locking his car. "Safe walk home?" he asked. "Yes," she said. "Thank you again for everything." He nodded. "Take care of yourself, Emma. The world needs people who keep showing up with kindness." She watched him drive away, the tail lights fading, and felt a quiet resolve settle in her chest. The shove had been brief, almost forgettable, but what followed had filled the space with something stronger. Not anger, not fear, but a shared understanding that how we treat one another matters even in the smallest moments. The next week, Emma noticed it everywhere. A customer holding the door for someone with full hands. Callum took extra time to listen when a regular spoke about a hard day. Even the man who had shoved her returned, this time with a polite nod and a thank you that lingered. Life didn't become perfect, and the Copper Finch remained what it had always been, a neighborhood bar with chipped tables and familiar faces. But for Emma, it became a place where she had seen compassion rise quietly and change the room. She carried that memory with her, letting it guide her on tired nights and busy days. Because sometimes hope doesn't arrive with grand gestures or loud declarations. Sometimes it looks like a man kneeling to help pick up broken glass, a bartender choosing calm over confrontation, and a room full of strangers deciding together to be better than the moment that challenged them. And when that happens, even a simple bar can become a place where hearts pause, soften, and remember what it means to care.